So just a few hours ago, it was announced that Tresean Gore has pulled out of his fight against Bo Nickal, and in stepping in is going to be the 7-0 undefeated prospect, Valentine Woodburn. And you don't need me to tell you this because the odds should kind of reflect it, but Bo Nickal should win this fight. I actually have gone and tried to watch every single Valentine Woodburn fight that I could, and it's actually really easy to do because every single fight from Valentine Woodburn is under the same promotion, Combat Night Pro, and they've got a YouTube channel, and every single fight except for his most recent fight against Lewis Mello is on that YouTube channel. I couldn't find that fight, so I've watched every single fight except for that most recent one, but I don't think my opinion will change on this matchup too much. Bo Nickal should be better everywhere, and that does include the striking. I'm watching Valentine Woodburn's fights. He's not very technical, but he does have a powerful right hand, and if he wins this fight, it's going to be by knockout with that right hand. He knocked out quite a few people with that right hand. He knocked out Brandon Johnson with the right hand. He knocked out Miles Amos with that right hand. But Valentine Woodburn, he's got a very odd striking style. Like, he throws leg kicks and right hands, and it's kind of it. He does throw a jab behind the right hand every now and then, but one thing that he does like to do, which I really don't like seeing from him at all, is he likes to dive for takedowns unnecessarily. And the most egregious example of this is when he shot for a takedown against this guy called Brandon Johnson, who was 42 years old at the time and much worse shape than Valentine Woodburn in the time as well. And Woodburn shot for a takedown against Brandon Johnson and got reversed. And he even eventually did get the takedown, but then Brandon Johnson just stood right back up, and then shortly after Woodburn knocked him out. But like, Valentine Woodburn shoots for takedowns on guys that he probably should just stand with because he was the better striker than Brandon Johnson in this matchup. And he got reversed by a 42-year-old boss hog. And that was his nickname. And then against Wesley Martins as well, this happened like almost the whole fight. Valentine Woodburn would be shooting for takedowns against Wesley Martins, who was a much bigger opponent than him, because this fight was actually at 205 pounds, and Wesley Martins would reverse it every single time. It just wasn't a good look, and that whole fight, the first round of that fight was really boring, but it did get much more exciting towards the end when Woodburn started to really land some big shots on Wesley Martins. But it just isn't really the best kind of look when Valentine Woodburn just doesn't show him very good fight IQ in these matchups. That he's shooting for takedowns on guys that he shouldn't. And you don't need me to tell you that he's going to be the worst wrestler than Bo Nickal, but he is going to be the worst wrestler than Bo Nickal. I think Bo Nickal has him covered everywhere. I think even in the striking, the problem with Bo Nickal though, we've never really seen any striking from Bo Nickal at all, so we don't really know how good he is at striking, because all we really see is him shooting for takedowns and grappling pretty early on into his matchups, because they don't last very long. But I think Bo Nickal finishes this fight in the first round. I think he can take down Valentine Woodburn with ease, because Woodburn is going to be a lot smaller than him. You know, Bo Nickal's 6'1", Woodburn is 5'8". He's really muscular guy. You can kind of see it in his photo there, but man, like, he's not going to be able to defend the takedowns against Bo Nickal. He's not going to be the better grappler than Bo Nickal. On the feet, he's probably the worst technical striker. He can get a KO with his right hand, but that's his only chance at winning this fight. And one thing I kind of would recommend though, what's a minus 2,500 favorite going to do for you? I think the under 1.5 is like the best for a parlay, but even then I think the odds are like minus 600 for under 1.5, but I think that's good. I think that's safe. Play the under 1.5, or play Bo Nickal wins of round 1. You could probably parlay that with something else. I wouldn't lean too heavy on it, but I just can't see Valentine Woodburn surviving the first round against Bo Nickal. And this is coming from someone that genuinely did go out there and watch a lot of Valentine Woodburn fights, because probably a lot of people will make a video on this fight without actually seeing any of Valentine Woodburn's fights. So yeah, I guess just take it from me when I do say I don't think Woodburn can win this matchup. I've genuinely watched every single fight that I could, which is a lot, because if you do search him up on YouTube, thankfully this Combat Night Pro channel has all of his fights. It's actually really useful. I watched all of his pro fights except for his fight against Lewis Mello. I just wasn't that impressed, man. And I think he would have lost against Marco Tuliasilva as well, who was meant to fight on Dana White's Contender Series. And yeah, I just you know, I just don't really know how to feel about him, because he's a short guy. He's 5'8". Every single time he fights, he's much smaller than his opponents. He probably could make 170 pounds, but who really knows? I mean, I don't mind the matchup. I'm seeing people complain about the matchup. Like, who did you expect? You think Marvin Vettori was going to fight Bo Nickal on 4 or 5 days notice? It just doesn't really work like that. Like, people were expecting Anthony Hernandez, who is a ranked fighter booked against Chris Curtis, to fight Bo Nickal. It's like, What are you expecting? Like, what are you expecting? Who are you expecting to fight on 4 days' notice? You know, not everyone in the UFC wants to risk their record and fight someone on 4 days' notice. It just doesn't work like that, especially ranked guys. As someone who does talk to UFC managers, managers of UFC fighters that are in the rankings, it is a lot harder to find a ranked opponent than you would think it is, because obviously the amount of people that you've got to book against is a lot smaller, and just ranked fights just come down to timing. And why would Chris Curtis or Anthony Hernandez blow their ranked opportunity to fight unranked Bo Nickal, who's sitting at the bottom of the division right now? So who knows? I think Bo Nickal's a good fighter. I think he's a good prospect. I think he absolutely obliterates Valentine Woodburn. It's going to look good on his record because he is 7-0, but I watched every single fight I could, and I just wasn't that impressed. So let me know what you think in the comments. I do apologize. I am sick at the moment, so maybe the video isn't as good as it normally would be. I'm taking a lot of breaths in between sentences, but it is because I genuinely am quite sick. I'm going to try my best to get well before the UFC 290 fight companion, but if I'm sick, I'm still doing that companion, man. I need to do a companion for this card. I genuinely cannot wait for it. But let me know what you think of the matchup in the comments. Let me know who you think wins. Let me know if you think that Valentine Woodburn's got a chance. He does, but it's by KO. I'm pretty sure everyone's probably on Nickal. If you're picking Woodburn by submission, it's Nickal by submission, or Nickal by finish, or Woodburn by KO. That's kind of how it goes. I don't think this fight goes the distance. Under 1.5 is safe. With all that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video.